In the year 2003, Sega and the Sonic team published a game for the Nintendo Game Boy Advance called Sonic Battle. A four-way brawl-style game that was such an underrated title, it basically went obscure for years. However, a brief resurgence of the old GBA title started making mass headway into the internet's limelight when indie animators started using the sprites and game character files to animate and create their own stories, some of which are still being worked on to this day. Games like Sonic Battle, the Advanced Trilogy, and even the Mario & Luigi RPG by Alpha Dream were put into the spotlight for the world even after the Game Boy had nearly gone extinct. Sonic Battle in particular is an extremely important title, not just for the communities it inspires, but also on a personal level. I myself have poured hours into this little cartridge, and I would like to share with all of you why. Welcome to my first of, hopefully, quite a few video essays, and today's featured spotlight, Sonic Battle. So, to begin with, I would like to divulge in the story of Sonic Battle. For those of you who had never played it before, I have a playlist available on my channel with all of the chapters for your convenience. However, if you're still here, then that either means you don't care for spoilers, or you've played it before and you just like a synopsis. Let's jump into it. The story begins with Sonic the Hedgehog finding a seemingly abandoned robot on the beach. He takes it to Tails the Fox's house, only to run into Shadow the Hedgehog, who demands that Sonic hand it over. Sonic refuses and kicks Shadow's butt in the next week. Rouge the Bat then enters later on, saying that she's after the robot as well, or rather her boss, which makes Sonic want to keep it even more. Upon discovering that it can learn the abilities of him and his friends, and that it can get stronger by using the Chaos Emeralds, the hunt begins, as well as training for the newly dubbed Emerald. Through the different chapters featuring the gang, Emerald grows stronger, protecting his friends from Dr. Eggman's copies of himself, as well as the governmental guard robos. Everything comes to a head, however, when Shadow finally unlocks Emerald's true powers. With the last Emerald obtained, Eggman launches a Hail Mary in the form of the Death Egg. This prompts Emerald to launch himself after the Doctor in an attempt to stop him. Unfortunately, that was exactly what Eggman was banking on, and he shows off the Death Egg's full power, causing Emerald to malfunction and turn his battle-hungry eyes on the planet. In a last-ditch effort to stop his friend, Sonic fights Emerald one last time to destroy him, and thus ends the Gizoid and its quest for world destruction. This story is one I just can't get enough of, and the little sub-stories you play along the way are just so entertaining. You help Amy train to reach her strength goals, challenge Shadow on the highway, and you steal an emerald with Rouge. It's bright, it's fun, and even if the story has a few gaps here and there, for example, why Shadow has to rest for a majority of the game, I can kind of forgive them because I just love seeing all the characters just live normal lives as they teach this child robot how to exist outside of just combat. It's a unique way to spin the Sonic saving the world from Eggman formula, and just a breath of fresh air for those who crave something outside the side-scroller speedruns. Try saying that 5 times fast. I'll also praise the storytelling for sticking with the personalities each character has. Their dialogue is on point, and so are their expressions, and even their fighting styles in combat are well scripted and catered to the characters. Which leads me to my next point. Now that you have an understanding of the story, we can discuss the meat and potatoes of the game itself, the gameplay. You will most likely find yourself situated in a brawl style /combat role-playing game when you play the main story mode. There are a total of 8 chapters, and you are either playing as either the chapter's lead character or Emerald alternately. Each character has their own unique fighting style, moves, and stats, and Emerald can learn all of these things as you progress in the story. And one of the main features of the game that makes it unique is the fact that you can customize Emerald to be a personally stylized fighter of your own making. You can pair up combo attacks from several different characters. You can even change his body color and idle poses. Hell, you can even give him your favorite character's stats spread with extra buffs. However, there are limits to this customization, literally. You see, all throughout the game, you learn these things called skill points, and depending on how many you have is how much data you can load into your robot. And if you have too few, you would have to trade out some of the more expensive skills in favor of lesser ones. Take, for example, the different styles of ground traps that you can unlock. One of my personal favorites is Tails' homing mouse mine, the Chew 2 bomb, or Chew squared. It has 5 stars, low power, and low speed, and the ability to follow the target around on the map. It is an important note that 1 star equals 5 skill points here. Remember this. If I had the ground trap set and I only had 5 points left to spare on my skill points, I could not, for example, load up Rouge Flight for a jump, as it also has 5 stars and low power but high speed. Budgeting your points is heavily encouraged, as well as finding the right balance for your fighter. To optimize your combat style, you'd have to mix and match what best suits your playstyle, while also maintaining some semblance of balance. Another benefit is that you can have up to 3 saved fighting styles at a time, so you're free to experiment for as much as you please. The story mode isn't the only thing this game is packing, however. There's also challenge modes, mini-games, and a multiplayer mode if you or a few friends were lucky enough to have your own multiple copies, and that spider of wires that's attached to the GBAs. You can choose your fighter and have up to 4 people in a brawl. The modes you can duke it out in range from stock, timed, or knockout count. Set the limit, choose from one of the 11 maps, and you and your friends can basically have a Sonic version of Smash Bros. Brawl tournament with no items. As for the minigames, there are 5 to play, 4 of which are multiplayer only, and a Knuckles clone of Minesweeper. You can also go into the options menu for some sound effects or soundtrack listening back for when you used your Game Boy as your MP3 player. Ah, good old early 2000s, you will never hit the same again. And there's some good tunes too, but more on that in a bit. The art direction in this game, led by Hisanobu Komatani, is a mix of sprite animation and RPG-style sprites with different expressions over text boxes. While some characters like Dr. Eggman and the E-Robos only have 2 poses, the other characters like Sonic and Tails have 3 or 4. These expressions pair nicely with the dialogue and give the player an idea of the tone the characters are expressing when they speak. There are also expressive voice acting lines to emphasize their meaning, and even some lines in the fighting as well. Things like Shadow's defeated grunt, Cream's giggle,
I won!
and Emerald's beeping are all scattered throughout the dialogue and make for some interesting tones. One example that comes to mind specifically is whenever Tails is left behind in Sonic's dust as he runs off. He always has sort of a whiny, "Don't leave me behind" kind of voice as he just goes,
Sonic!
It's a moment of show, don't tell that lets the player feel some sympathy towards the young fox. You just want to comfort him in that moment and just try to cheer him up. He's just so cute! Ah! And speaking of the sound, the overworld music for the different zones you traverse really gives you this sense of this is a Sonic world. For example, Central City's main theme is this jazzy downtown vibe with a minor key and 7th chords scattered in the keyboard, while the saxophone and trumpet have a melody that just screams Monday in the office. Contrary to that is the mysterious Night Babylon hub world, with the bass undertones giving backstreet alley tones and the melody being a discord of different electronic notes and cadences. Tatsuyuki Maeda, Kenshi Tokoi, and Kaida Kobayashi all had a hand in the sound design, and I think they absolutely nailed it all. Sadly, no game is without its faults, and Sonic Battle is littered with them. While I did praise the story for the unique take on the traditional theme of the Sonic games, the story has long stretches of gameplay where nothing important really happens, or moments in the dialogue where you are prompted to do something, and then you just jump right into battle. Even entire chapters are more dedicated to storytelling than actual fighting or training. So if you're the type who likes to grind for EXP or farm for moves, you are going to have to sit through a lot of dialogue before you can get to the farming spots. Not to mention, the mode of travel is slow and you can't jump from different maps unless you are in an adjacent map. The cursor you use can be sped up with the press of the B button as you're moving, but the characters following the cursor can get stuck. Additionally, the moves you are trying to farm for are hard to come by, and you have to fight the same characters over and over and over again. And even with the trade feature on the menu for Emerald, the surplus of moves you would collect are comparable to common Yu-Gi-Oh cards in a pack. Like, they're useful, but you can only use one at a time. And so the extras just kind of sit there. And on top of the grueling tedium of grinding, the cap of skill points you can have to make it so that you can't use your favorite combo of moves, as explained earlier. But it's not just the fighting and the combos you have to worry about. Oh, no. It's the difficulty spikes. You see, a chunk of the chapters you have to fight and revolve around the main character for said chapter. In Chapter 4, for example, you play as Knuckles the Echidna, and you are tasked with trading Emerald and getting answers from Rouge and Eggman. Halfway through the chapter, however, Emerald runs off, and Knuckles is tasked with finding him. You travel through Night Babylon to several different locations and fight off copies of V102 Gamma. At the last point, you have to fight off 3 at once, all without losing your stock of 3 lives. That spike was so unnecessary, especially considering that Knuckles' moveset is one of the weaker loadouts of the playable characters. Like, sure, he has good specials, but his stock fighting loadout is unstable and slow when compared to a fighter like Rouge or Amy. Not to mention, going off a little bit off script here, look at this! He is moving as he is punching! Why? All the other characters are static while they're fighting, and he has to have the audacity to move! And speaking of unstable loadouts, the final battle of the game on the Death Egg is where you play as Emerald versus Eggman, and it's the very definition of button spam. Eggman keeps his distance from you and spams missiles your way as you try your damnedest to hit him, and hit him hard. And after that, you don't even get a chance to recuperate before you are thrust into a Sonic versus Awakened Emerald battle. Sonic at this point feels very hard to play, so your enemy is unbalanced at best, and rage-inducing at worst. So I would consider this lucky you only have to defeat him once as compared to Eggman. Oh, and speaking of the ending, the defeat of Emerald seems very rushed and lackluster. The dialogue feels slow and drawn out and is a bit too open-ended. And it really made me question whether or not the Sonic team would ever use this character again, since Tails asked if they would ever see Emerald again. And I suppose that question was answered later, titles like Sonic Advance 3 or Sonic Chronicles Brotherhood. But if you were going to kill off a character, don't have your supporting cast ask if they'll be seen again. But for all its flaws, Sonic Battle still gained some semblance of fandom within the community, as it had sparked a movement that inspired many creators that were drawn to the sprites, artwork, and even the storytelling of the GBA era. In 2006, 3 years after Sonic Battle's release, a Newgrounds creator by the name of username Alvin Earthworm published the first episode of the legendary indie crossover, Super Mario Bros. Z. He and his team pulled sprites and animations from the GBA tiles for the Sonic games, as well as the RPG Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, to create a story inspired by the classic anime Dragon Ball Z. The story went that Sonic and Shadow are supposed to be the last survivors from a mass attack from a rogue Eggman creation called Turbo Mecha Sonic, an advanced and upgraded Metal Sonic with free will. They used the old tech from an Eggman base to create a machine capable of transporting them to a different dimension. And that dimension was the Mushroom Kingdom. active brief introductions, the bros team up with Yoshi, Sonic, and Shadow to hunt down the Chaos Emeralds, which were scattered upon their arrival in the realm. Sadly, the series was never completed, but it sparked enough love for sprite animation to inspire other creators to follow in Alvin's footsteps. Animations like Mario & Luigi The Mask by Time Lord Paradox, SMB Heroes of the Stars, a series by Silas Goji 91, and even SMB The Legendary Warrior series by Shadow Killer 1011. Now, most of these projects are either abandoned or outdated, but there are still some projects made by these very same people that use those sprite animation skills for revamped versions of those projects, or even different projects entirely. It's even inspired artists and animators to make their own GBA sprites of their own Mobian avatars. It's a wonderful thing to behold, to see fellow creators come together to create something new and interesting out of something as simple as a game sprite. I personally have had my first attempts at characters and OCs through Sonic Battle, and I've had such a love of RPGs because of this very game. If it wasn't for this underrated gem, I would not be the Maniac you see today. So, to the Sonic team, Alvin Earthworm, and whoever else might be watching this, I appreciate you all so much. You've inspired countless creators to this day and are the fundamental cornerstone of the sprite animation community as a whole. I hope you're proud of the work you've done, because without it, the community would not be the same. So, to wrap this video up, I just have a few quick notes that I need to tack on to here. Among other GBA games, Sonic Battle may be my favorite, but it wasn't my introduction into the Sonic universe. That privilege belongs to Sonic Advance 3, and if you want me to do other retro GBA titles I grew up with, I would love to hear about it. But Sonic Battle will always hold a special place in my heart for me, because not only did it introduce me to my favorite Sonic character of all time, but it was the catalyst for me discovering YouTube and eventually diving myself headfirst into storytelling. In my humble opinion, Sonic Battle deserves a lot more praise and recognition than it received, and I hope by watching this video, you can try the game out for yourself, or even watch some gameplay of it. It has its flaws and hiccups, sure, but I think that just adds to the game's charm. This game is an important piece of Sonic lore, as well as for the communities it inspired. Anyways, that's all I have to say about it. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure you smack that like button, subscribe to join the lair of the Maniacs, and be sure to comment what your favorite retro game is or was growing up. Thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.